everyone, and welcome to our Facebook Live today. So you're here with Theodora and Kate, and today our topic is on persevering through change. So this forms code 3 in our book, Finding Your Inner Resilience, and this is, as we were just discussing before we came on, quite a large chapter. And there's quite a lot of content that we discuss on, because perseverance really is key to building lifelong resilience. And quite an important topic for us, and one that I think there was most of our advice that we've got around change comes into this topic.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. And it's well known, I think, throughout history and current events. You always hear the story about the person who never gives up. And we admire most of the time those people who don't give up. But one of the things we wanted to take you through is just basically unpack what does that actually mean, and what does it look like, and when is the right time to actually give up and walk away, because that's just as valid as not giving up.
Exactly. And I think we were just talking about persevering through and what it means to us, and what does perseverance mean, but also what it doesn't mean. And I think it doesn't mean working yourself to the bone. It doesn't mean, going through a situation to the point where, it's destructive to yourself. There is a point where you've got to also walk away, and understanding when the right time is to walk away as well.
Yeah, I agree. And then for me, it's also around understanding why you want that goal. What is it that's driving you? And it works in, are you being driven by positive energy, or are you being driven by negative energy?
And ego-driven.
And ego-driven, that's all the negative stuff. So is it from an ego issue? Is it a revenge issue? Is it a I'll show them type issue? That's all negative stuff, and that's not sustainable. So understanding what the driver is and why you want to achieve this goal and never give up, I think is really important, because that's what's going to help you through that journey, especially during the tough times, because we all face those challenges when things will go wrong. And that's when resilience comes in. How do you get through that and move to that next stage?
And I also find a lot of the time you actually don't know that you're persevering. You're just doing, a lot of these things. Like obviously sometimes if you're actually going through a large change in your life, or if you're facing a challenge. But, some of the times you've just got to keep moving through, and you don't really know kind of why. Perseverance. But I thought, what perseverance does mean to us is it keeps moving forward. So it keeps moving you forward. So again, no matter how that may look like to you as well, and moving forward no matter how slow. So I think as long as it's progress, and as long as you're moving and moving and keeping your eye on the end goal, for us is around persevering to help yourselves through change.
Exactly. And I think that's important, that comment around the speed at which you move, because if you're really clear on your intention is to achieve a certain goal, doing the activities and the work and the movement in that right direction will get you there eventually. If your driver is ego-driven, for example, then probably you want things to happen really quickly. So then you get frustrated when you don't see things happening quickly. So that starting point, for me at least, is really important, because that's what's going to sustain you through the journey. And things do move sometimes really slowly, and it's frustrating.
You can move backwards. I remember that. You can, some days you feel like you've taken 2 or 3 steps forward, then a week later you can feel like, oh, hang on a minute, I'm back to where I started from. And I think those are the moments, and a lot of the time you almost look like you're doing a dance. So you kind of, and that is all part of the perseverance. It's part of it. So I think today what we really want to talk to you is what you can do to help yourself persevere through change. So we've got a few points, and we've already started talking about this. So we'll talk a little bit more about this. One of the points, and I guess it was a quote that we used a lot when we were going through our challenge, and we still use it today, is if you're going through hell, keep going.
You don't want to settle in.
You don't want to stop. If you're going through hell, you don't want to stop and settle in. And a lot of people do, and a lot of people do it subconsciously as well. So I think it's one of those things. If you're going through hell, just keep moving and keep moving forward.
It's exactly right. And that's where you've got to be mindful or aware of your comfort zone, because humans have the ability to adapt. And if you're in a bad situation, you adapt, you make it work because you want to survive. So it's a survival mechanism. But you've also got to, and that's completely fine, depending on different circumstances. That's sometimes the best that you can aim for, but it doesn't mean that long term that's where you settle in.
No.
Because all of us deserve more than just surviving through life. And that's where you've just got to keep moving, however the speed is. So it could be little steps, and that's what usually works, and sometimes big steps.
Yeah, so, exactly. There was good advice from Mike Dooley, who's a spiritual teacher that I know I've used a lot when I've faced challenges in the past. And I remember going through a work challenge, and it was a number of years ago, and I was really disengaged at work, and I was very down. And, his piece of advice was basically do anything, from the position you're in, kind of do anything. Anything will help, for what you're doing. So do anything. Don't just do nothing. And his second piece of advice is do something every day just for yourself. So no matter how small of action it is. And I remember for me, it was a work, I was going to work every day. And then in the afternoon, I would make a point of going and buying myself a hot chocolate. And just that action was just, the point that I made. And when I did that action every day, I knew it was the action that I was doing just for me. And it did actually help a lot to persevere through. And I actually really looked forward to that 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because it's nurturing.
It's nurturing.
And it's self-loving. And you got to a point where it's like, well, hang on a minute. So it was a very, very good piece of advice. And I would encourage anyone, if do something for yourself. Every day, no matter how small, because especially if you're facing a challenge, you're facing a change, sometimes all your energy is so externally focused.
That's right.
It's also, you're also very headstrong when you're going through this. So a lot of it, even if it's not completely ego driven, you're normally thinking a lot about what you're doing, and it can be quite stressful. So taking that time out to focus on yourself just gives you those little nuggets that you can kind of recharge to keep going.
Exactly. And it's like you said, because the focus is, because I remember someone saying to me a long time ago, your energy is like a bank account. So in this sort of journey that you're on, you're giving and giving and giving, because it's all external focus, sending energy out. That if you don't replenish your bank account, you will run out of money, or you'll run out of source. So it's about remembering. I think that's a really important point, because you need to nurture yourself. You need to replenish so that you have more to give. Otherwise, you end up getting physically sick or mentally sick.
And you can, because as we use the mountain analogy, you can get very depleted walking up that mountain.
Exactly.
And facing that. And it's the emotional, the mental and the physical kind of drain that you get. So, and you've got to kind of stop and restock so that you can keep persevering on. And then doing those checkpoints, as we were doing before, to go, is this something worth moving forward on, or is this something I need to bail out on?
It's almost like the baggage. If you think of it as mountain climbing, you just gave me the image. If you're climbing up that mountain, you want to take minimal things in your backpack. You don't want to carry stuff that's not necessary.
Let it go.
You don't want all that extra stuff to get up that mountain. You only want the stuff you're going to need to get you up the mountain. So,
and I remember the yoga teacher I used to go to quite a lot. She used to say at the beginning of every class, put on your invisible backpack. And you'd always put on your invisible backpack. And she'd go, okay, now we've all got to take off our invisible backpack, which is all the baggage and everything that's happened to us that day, that week and beyond. Let it go. And you basically let it go. And the act of, almost visualizing to do that is very therapeutic. And it is that act of letting go.
That's a good exercise.
And it is, and you let go of that back, because we carry a lot on. And as you say, as you get up trying to climb a mountain, that's heavy.
Of course it is, especially because the mountain, like life, will have steep areas. It's not just an easy, gradual, incline, whatever the right word is, but there'll be areas that are really steep and narrow. Last thing you want is baggage that you don't need.
Exactly.
Just take the stuff you need. So it comes right back to that first point of being really clear about why you're needing to persevere through something, why you really want this goal, that you're going to focus on that goal and achieve it. And if you're not clear at the beginning, you're carrying all that extra baggage up that mountain, because it's not necessarily an easy journey.
No.
Because it's a learning experience.
And I think that's one of the points that, what is something that you can do to help yourself, as to persevere through change. And it's to be very clear on your intention and be very clear on what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I think that'll very much help you kind of get up that mountain and help you in the long term once you understand your intention. And it's okay for your intention to change. I think, as you go through things, you grow and change as a person too, and your intentions change.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
And it's also being really clear, and I know we're probably labouring the point, but it's really important, is that's how you attract the support that you need. Yeah. So if you need, and on a journey and persevering, because it is challenging and it's meant to be challenging, that's why it's called perseverance. But on that journey, you need help. And if you're really clear on why you want, what you want and why you want it and where you're going, people will help you, and things will come to you that will help you in that journey.
Yeah, exactly. So I think
it goes right back to the beginning. That's why it's so important.
Yeah. I think that's something that is really good. And I think a few of the other points that we've got along here that I think one thing that we used a lot is it's okay to lose your cool. Yeah. And to,
every now and then.
Every now and then. It's okay to lose your cool, and that actually does help you. Again, it's like that release. It's like letting go of the baggage and moving on. So I think that's something that is really good to make sure that you are it's a good strategy to use to make sure that you're losing that. Our one rule was to make sure that only one of us at a time lost our cool.
Yeah. It's like we say in other forums, I call it, it's okay to visit victim land, but you don't settle in.
Yes, exactly.
So occasionally to just dip into, oh my God, what's happening, poor me, blah, blah, blah. Being a victim, losing your cool, that's okay.
Yeah.
But you don't do that all the time. You visit and then you're out again, back on the journey.
I know, and it is really easy to stay in that victim land.
Oh, it is.
It can get.
It's very comforting.
It's very comforting, and it's
deceptive, but comforting,
and also very comforting to some, like, depending on what you're facing as well, to put your hands up and say, I need, kind of someone else do all the work for me. You climb, but I want to be carried up the mountain. You do all the work. And it doesn't work like that, especially for building resilience. It's that's more of a short term rather than the long term focus that we're looking at.
Yep, I agree.
Excellent.
So maybe some of the other things and tips that we can give you.
So some of the one of the big pieces that we talk about a lot is maintaining a sense of humour.
Yeah.
And, I think that's the one thing that I think is good for teams to also do if you're, kind of obviously if you're managing teams or if you're going through a challenge as a person or as a family, maintaining a sense of humour is really important, and looking at everything in perspective.
Yes.
And I know at the time when we were going through ours, it's very hard to have a sense of humour some days. But I think it's one thing I've learned to now, and it was a big learning to kind of look at and maintain that sense of humour and to joke about stuff and to go, what, one day we're going to look back and laugh.
And what it does, it actually disrupts that intensity, because the journey of anything, like even our current COVID environment, in the beginning when we all had to go into lockdown, there was a lot of fear. That's very intense.
Yes, exactly.
So sometimes just stepping back and looking at it, getting some perspective and, making a joke of some sort or just having a laugh actually just breaks that up a bit and gives you a bit of a break. And then you go, okay, let me get things back into perspective. It's not as, it's intense, but it's not going to last forever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's this point in time. I can see beyond that. It's going to be different.
Exactly.
So, it helps break that drama. So it is important.
And I think, as you get obviously more experienced and as you go through more, you always know that, it is just a moment in time what you're going through. And when, I look back on stuff and go, oh my gosh, I took that so seriously at the time. I took it so seriously at the time.
And I go, Jean, I thought that was a problem. And then you go, gee, little did I know. Everything prepares you for the next one.
It does.
Yeah, you have to laugh, I think.
Exactly. One of our other points that we've got is to celebrate and to acknowledge small wins along the way. Again, it comes with the re-energizing and helping yourself through change and persevering through is to acknowledge the small wins, no matter how small they are, and no matter how much kind of celebration you can do at that time. I think it's really symbolic to help you as you get to, and as you're climbing the mountain, if you get to a new part of or new section of this mountain that you haven't achieved yet, celebrate it, and reward yourself, and try to help yourself through that way.
Yeah, it gives you a good feeling, I think. Doesn't matter, like you said, no matter how big or small that achievement is.
Yeah.
And if you can share it with someone, I think that's fantastic. If you can't, even writing it down in a journal or rewarding yourself, even if it's like no work, no study tonight, no work tonight, or I get to get a hot chocolate, or I can, treat myself to something, go shopping or go out or visit an art gallery, whatever it is that makes it, that makes you happy.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's very important that you actually mark that moment.
Yeah.
Because they're little signposts of your journey.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's what's going to help you remember the learnings of the journey. Because now I haven't had children, but you can tell me if this is right, that they say that when you have a child, it's painful, like giving birth, but you forget all that once you see the baby.
Yeah.
So you forget that journey and everything you go through once you see your child. So sometimes a journey like this, you'll forget it if you haven't signposted. You'll forget the learning. So why are you laughing at me?
I don't know. It's I think you, again, like giving birth, it's kind of once it's kind of over, you do kind of have the reward.
Well, I don't know. I'm only saying what I hear. I know the baby there, but babies are adorable.
That's okay. I constantly remind Emily that I was in ICU for 3 days after she was born, and Jamie that I had to inject myself in my belly for 3 months during my pregnancy.
Wow.
And use it against them.
But they're adorable. Is that part of that's what you do as a mum, though?
That's what
Keep
but
that
again,
when they're teenagers.
It's interesting though, because you look at it in that sense, and you do whatever you need to do
exactly
at that time to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And to, you kind of, the health and well-being of yourself and children is obviously the paramount thing you're focusing on. So you do anything and I would do it again, it's you do what you have to do.
Oh, well, there's an analogy.
There you go.
I can add more to my analogy then.
But the one thing you did touch on is around focusing on those learnings.
Yes,
I think that's one of the big pieces we did. And as each milestone we got to, and I think this is almost why we wrote the book that we wrote, because we did focus on the learnings. We saw what we learned along the way, and at the end of it, we kept saying we should write a book about this. We should write a book about this.
Exactly.
Because we're like, wow, there is so much that we learned along the way, and it's almost being grateful and being gracious for what we've gone through. And then once we've got to the other end, like we are different people.
Absolutely. And I absolutely agree. And just to pick up on the gratefulness, because that's really, really important. And that's something it's easy to forget.
Yeah.
Because any journey that you're on is all about you and it's focused on you and what you're going through.
Yeah.
It's really easy to forget, but so important to be grateful for the experience, for the learning, and then sharing those learnings with others and supporting others.
Yeah.
That helps you move even further and it brings a good sense of self-satisfaction and achievement, I think.
It's the feel good, I think. And this is the positive energy, like anything you can do to fuel that positive energy, especially when you've got a negative, experience or, or even, in a situation that's not ideal. Anything that you can do to fuel it with positive energy and surround yourself with positive people will help you through and will help you persevere through.
Exactly.
So,
and what you give out is what comes back to you.
Yeah, exactly.
So why would you want to give out all the negative stuff? Because that'll just keep coming back.
Exactly. And I think that the positive it will change you as a person. It will grow you. And again, in our next video, we'll talk about authenticity, which is our 4th resilience code. And we'll really touch on a lot of those topics a little bit more. There's probably just 2 more points before we wrap up that we want to focus on. So one of the other things that Andrew used to always say as we were going through our challenge together is, let's break it down. Let's just focus on the next thing we need to achieve. Don't look at the whole mountain. If you look at the whole mountain, we're going to overwhelm ourselves.
Exactly.
Make sure that we just really do focus on the next thing that we need to achieve.
Yep. And that's really important. That's how you get through life. You've got to just, and in any modality that you look at, any religion, spiritual belief you look at, it always says when you have a problem or a challenge, you break it down so that it's not overwhelming, because if it's overwhelming, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Normal, usual, on average, people will go, it's too hard, I'll put it off and look at it another time.
Exactly. So I think that's just one of the biggest, I guess, learnings we had is to break things down. And it's okay to break things down, because I know that we would get overwhelmed and really stressed when we looked at the entire situation. But when you just looked and went, well, hang on, what do we need to get achieved in the next week? It's like, well, let's do this, and it's focused on the next bit we need to do.
It starts to diffuse the fear around the challenge and being overwhelmed. And there's a tool we're teaching in one of our workshops, and you've probably heard about the circle of control or the circle of influence. And it's just basically understanding what you've got on your plate and separating the things that you have some control over. So breaking it down into small points and saying, this stuff I can do something about. That stuff I can't do anything about right now. So focusing on the things that you can do gives you the energy, the confidence, and it starts to change things anyway and breaks down the challenge. So,
and a lot of these times when you're facing a change, it's out of your control.
That's right.
Which I guess creates the stress.
Yes.
And the fear.
And
why you go straight to your ego-driven behaviors and all this, because we want to control everything. So I think
that's how you dissipate fear is by controlling. It's a catch-22.
It is totally a catch-22. And then the other technique that we did use a lot of is around the yoga and the mindfulness techniques and meditation. We did use that a lot. We did use positive affirmations, and we do want to drill into this a lot, but we're going to do that as a separate Facebook Live session, because I think there's so much in that we're conscious we're already over 20 minutes. So,
are we?
That I want to make sure that we also give that the attention we need, because there is so much in that piece, and there again so much when you're so stressed. Mindfulness and yoga and meditating and focusing on your inner self, on how much that can help you through change as well, and how much I know it's helped me through my own experiences as well.
And it's so relevant for now. And there's if you look at the studies and the media and news reports about the increase in mental health and stress during this current environment that we're all living in. So I think it deserves its own sort of separate session on tips on how to sort of, use some of these mindfulness tips.
Exactly.
And learnings.
Perfect. So okay, it's good. So let's leave you in a minute. So we'll leave you with a couple of thoughts.
Yes.
Around what are some actual perseverance tools that you can do. We like to be very practical. So what are some things you can do if you're facing a change right now or a challenge? What are some of the things you can do to help you through? So basically now it's your turn, and you can select one of these or a couple of these if you like. As we've mentioned, some of these are things we've mentioned, but let's just finish off and reinforce some of these points. So utilize positive affirmations. So YouTube is also a great resource if you're looking for positive affirmations. So just pop it into the search, and utilizing positive affirmations will fuel you and help you every day throughout perseverance. So utilize those. Set reminders in your calendar, so to stay positive, or give yourself little personal reminders. I know this is also another one of Mike Dooley's tips that he gave when I was reading his things, and sometimes you might think it might sound a little bit silly, but giving yourself little positive reminders like keep going or blah 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 in your calendar is really motivational. Meditate, and try to meditate every day, whether it's just for 5 minutes, taking some time out just for yourself, and really just, connecting with your inner self is important. Setting the small goals.
Can I just add, if you can't meditate, because it took me a while to get into sort of how do I meditate, because I couldn't stop and relax, doing things like going for a walk and focusing on the things that you see. Meditating is about removing that stuff that goes on in your head. So what I used to do is go for a walk and really observe the flowers, the grass, the bricks and things like that. And it gets you into that right frame of mind. And it's called a moving meditation. And that helped. So because sometimes people can't just sit there and go blank.
And and it's it takes a lot of practice,
Yeah.
you know, which is why
And
I
you
say
do 5
it every day.
minutes. Yeah, just do 5 minutes is fine. Start with that.
And otherwise, another good meditation technique is if you do want to just sit there and try to kind of and blank out your mind, which I know is obviously easier said than done, is focus on your senses. So move through your senses and focus on, you know, the sounds around you, you know, the smells around you, all of this stuff, and just do that over 5 minutes, which is really good. I'm also a major fan of yoga nidras if you're looking for something to help center you and focus. So a yoga nidra is a great way to recharge you as well. And I find it one of the best ways to meditate as well. So some of our other points that we've got here is journal. So, you know, get it out of your head. No matter whatever you're going through, get it out of your head and onto paper. It's very therapeutic. And it's also quite interesting as you keep your journals and you reflect and you see how far you've grown and what you've learned as well. So utilize support as well. So you've got a support network. In Code 2, we spoke about, you know, building your tribe. So utilize them, make sure they're around to support you throughout the change as well. Exercise, which is what you mentioned before. You know, get outdoors, get out in nature, and nature, fresh air.
Exactly.
Swim.
Oh, I can't swim.
No, I can swim. But you can't swim.
But I go near the water. Yeah. But nature's very
we'll put floaties on you.
I'll put float. No, I can't float. Kickboard and floaties don't work. But anyway, I'll put that as my goal. I'll learn how to swim eventually. But nature is very nurturing, and it re-energizes and replenishes you. It's really important to see nature and be out near a tree or anything like that.
Exactly.
Flowers, pot plants.
Yeah. Receive additional support from professionals. So this is a point, I know we've spoken about it before, but utilize counselors, coaches, psychologists. They're all around. There's lots and lots of different resources around. There's Beyond Blue and a lot of other Lifeline and a lot of those resources that have obviously got links to all of these as well. So that's definitely something to utilize professionals when you need it as well. And, you know, we kind of spoke about this already, but step away from the problem. Try to clear your head and step away from it as much as you can. Don't think about it all the time. Just because you're thinking about it all the time doesn't mean that it's going to get better.
That's right.
You know, you're just stressing yourself out a lot more.
That's exactly right. And one of the things, just to add to that, is it's okay sometimes to just step away. Sometimes if we go back to that, why are you doing this in the first place? If it's not going to happen, you don't have to keep beating yourself up to get there if it's not the goal that's meant to happen. So you can give yourself permission to go, I'm going to step away from this. I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
I need to do something else. Yeah.
And I find, like, if I'm at work, you know, on a Friday and I'm trying to, you know, really bash something out and, you know, and then, or if I'm dealing with a problem or something and I don't know how to solve it on the Friday, I find that if I just kind of almost put it to the side and then come back Monday morning, I'll be able to solve it within the first hour on Monday morning, because you've stepped away from it. I've come back to it with fresh insight. I've rested, you know, and you're clearer minded. And I find that, because normally you rush to get through stuff, and then I'm like, well, hang on a minute, let's just park it, contemplate it, and then we can come back and solve it.
Yep. Excellent.
So that's it, guys. I know we're a little bit over kind of our time.
Normal time. That's okay.
But
we had a laugh.
Exactly. But thank you for joining us. Our next Facebook Live session will be on authenticity. And so that is our 4th resilience code, and one that we are very passionate about.
Yes.
Being true to who you are.
Yep.
So that was what we're doing. So thank you for joining us today, and hopefully this was valuable, getting some of these insights into perseverance and getting some of these tools that we've used and techniques and how they can help you.
Excellent. Thank you. Hope you've enjoyed it. And like Kate said, hope you can got value from it as well.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.